Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting here. Tonight we have Gobble, Digest, and Give Thanks, three of my favorite things. So we have a lot lined up for you tonight, and we are going to get started. Our first testimony tonight is Sherelle. Sherelle, hi, how are you?
Hey, Molly, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for having me on. Sherelle Miller from Idaho, and I'm excited to share with you guys a testimony I have that started with my twins. They're 3.5 years old now, but they were about a month early, and while in the NICU, both of them had feeding tubes, which grateful that they were still able to get the nutrients they needed. But since then, just the effect that it had on their digestive system, we had a lot of issues with tolerating all different formulas, and had to resort to some pretty expensive ones. Spitting up all the time, reflux really bad, especially with my daughter. If you bounced her anything, it was going to be she was miserable for the next little bit. So when people would want to hold her and like bounce her, because that's what you want to do with little babies and stuff, it just was a disaster for her. Once we transitioned them over into drinking dairy off of formula, right about 12 months, they were still spitting up, but now it was like coming up curdled, and it was absolutely disgusting. This is when I started to sprinkle a little bit of Verdezymes in their bottles. Every single bottle, I just sprinkle a little bit, and it was instant relief for them. Instantly, they stopped spitting up. And here we are they're 3.5 years old now, and we still use them. I add Verdezymes into their Soul Vital every day, so they still get that enzyme support, just to kind of support their digestion. So it'll be definitely something we'll use from here on out. But that's how Verdezymes have changed our lives.
That's incredible. It's amazing how you get them started nice and early and give them that extra boost, especially with kids in the NICU. That's such a great tool to have. Thank you for sharing that.
You bet. Thank you.
Next up, we have Tiffany DeLisi. She is a functional medicine practitioner, and she is full of knowledge. So break out your pads if you want, but always listen to the great things that Tiffany has to say. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Had to unmute. Good. How are you?
Good. So talk to us a little bit about this foundational versus symptomatic approach.
Yes, so we can go ahead and change slides. So a lot of times clients will come to me, and it's usually after they've been struggling with a certain symptom for quite a long time, right? Maybe they've even received a diagnosis, and they'll come to me and say, Tiffany, I have blank, fill in the blank with symptom or diagnosis. What do I do from that? And you might even be on tonight's call tonight because you heard we were talking about digestive stuff, and you're like, I have digestive issues. How do I fix that? And this is what we've been taught: symptom solution, or symptom like pill approach. And I want to challenge you tonight to think a little bit differently. So we can go to the next slide. So as I was getting some car maintenance done over the last couple of weeks, I started thinking about how we don't wait until this check engine light comes on before we do car maintenance, right? We need oil changes, we need to rotate tires, because we want to keep that car running as well as possible for as long as possible. And this really isn't very different when it comes to our health. So a lot of us don't do anything until that check engine light comes on, right? So sometimes we're just feeling really bad and we don't know what to do, and that's when it hits. Or sometimes it's because we go to the doctor and they give us a diagnosis, and that's when we start to take things seriously. But instead, I want to kind of switch our thinking around. We want to fix the engine and keep the engine functioning properly. The engine is our body, right? So that we can restore balance to the whole body system, both our mind, our body, and our spirit, because we know that if one system is out of balance, the rest will follow, right? So if I just never change the oil in my car, eventually it's going to break down and I'm not going to have a car, right? So what we want to do is we want to we want to shift back towards bringing balance into our life so that we're avoiding that check engine light. Okay, so we can change slides. And in order to do that, I like to use the analogy of a tree. That's on the next slide. Thanks. So when you look at a tree, like if you were to go into your backyard or a park or the forest, what you usually see is just what's above ground. Okay, we don't usually see what's beneath the surface, but beneath the surface of that tree is a massive network of roots. It's very extensive and even bigger sometimes than the entire branch system that we see above ground, right? And also the health of that tree relies on the health of these roots. So this is kind of the similar to our health and wellness. Okay, so when we take a systematic approach to healing, basically all we're looking at is the roots above ground. Okay, focusing on symptoms, naming diseases, treating these as if they are problems when in fact they are symptoms of a real underlying problem that's going on. Okay, so we moved into a brand new house several years ago, and so they did the landscaping in the front yard. So we couldn't figure out why this tree was dead really fast. It wasn't doing its thing. We finally tore it up, and they left the bag around the roots, so the roots could never grow and do what they need to. But if we just looked at the tree and said, "Oh, does it need more water? Does it do this? Does it need that?" That was kind of a symptomatic approach because the problem was at the roots. Okay. And the thing is, rarely do we find ourselves solving a problem at the root level. Okay, we go to a doctor, we treat with a pill, right? But we're not looking deeper. And what we end up doing is covering up symptoms instead of fixing them. Instead, we want to take a foundational approach. And a foundational approach is when we start to look at what's below the surface. We start to look at those roots, and we start to look at conditions, and we start to uncover the root causes that might lead to them in the first place. And that's when we start to heal. That's when we start to have long-term sustainable results. And it's an approach that's about fixing the root cause of our symptoms so that you're not continuing to struggle with these issues time and time again. And that's one of the reasons I love Soul, is because they take a foundational approach to healing both the mind and the body. And we know that your symptoms have a deeper root and that we may not even see from the surface, right? But we know that a body out of balance is going to create an unhealthy body, and we need to address that. So I love that our products address all of that, and it's not just a symptomatic or a quick fix or a Band-Aid approach. And when we look at adopting a foundational approach opposed to a symptomatic approach, your body learns to heal itself. We start to have a stronger immune system, and that leads to extraordinary health and longevity.
Awesome. I love that, and all of the arborists that have come in and looked at trees on our property or stuff in our garden, the first thing that they do in diagnosing anything is they amend the soil, right? It's the stuff that feeds the roots that's going to create a better plant. So I feel I see the parallel, and that's awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Angela Brucheski is going to come on now, and she's going to share with us a little testimony of hers. Hi, Angela.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good.
Well, thank you guys for letting me share a little bit of my testimony. So I actually started on one of the products, the Verdezymes. And so when I first came to Soul, I had really struggled with my sleep and energy issues and things like that. And so I had added in the Renew, which was the little sleepy time tea. And I noticed right away I was sleeping, but adding that digestive enzyme in, like Tiffany said, really getting to the root of the problem and going in there and helping calm the gut and really go in there and nourish that. That is what really helped and made a difference for me in my sleep. I have noticed too, I remember a Thanksgiving where I just overindulged and I literally felt so miserable, came home, took some digestive enzymes, and I felt so much better. The bloating really eased. And what's nice too is that I'm able to use this for my daughter. She has some, a little bit of, actually a lot of inflammation going on, and she has some reflux issues. Similar to Sherelle, she was also a former preemie and spent a lot of time in the NICU. And so, we're going in there and really, going in and working on her gut and addressing some inflammation and watching what she's putting in. But it's just been amazing to see how that has been able to really help with that reflux issue as well. So it's all around, a product that I use in multiple ways too.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. It's they do so good before meals, after meals, kids, adults, everyone can benefit from them. Thank you for sharing, Angela. Ashley, we would like to hear from you now. Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. I too love the Verdezymes. I initially started them due to oily hair, and then I learned that that was a lack of breaking down proteins, fats, and carbs. So started on the enzymes. So I want to kind of bring this full circle, what Angela shared, to this demo. So I have 2 bowls, and we're talking about enzymes, taking them before a meal. I have 2 bowls with oatmeal and water, same amount, and 1 bowl has 2 enzymes and the other one does not. So I want to show you the first bowl. I hope y'all can, I'm going to do this gracefully. This is the first bowl with no enzymes. You can tell like the oatmeal stuck to the spoon, yeah? And this is what's happening in our stomach if we're not breaking down fats, proteins, and carbs. This bowl is the one with 2 enzymes, and you can see it's almost like Jell-O. It's like nice and smooth. So this is what the beauty of these enzymes go in and do the work for us. So I like to take it before a meal that way. The other way I enjoy taking it is before bed. So I went from anxious and worried, just kind of a racing mind, if you've ever experienced that, to a calm mind. So taking an empty stomach before bed, anxious and worried, to super calm and waking up without having to hit the alarm clock. And you guys, that gives us so much life. So thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. What a neat presentation with that oatmeal. It's so incredible. So we've heard a lot about enzymes, these digestive enzymes that Soul has called Verdezymes, and just some of the great testimonies that we have from them. So tonight we have Greg Halliday, the founder and president of Soul Naturals here. Hi, Greg, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. Good to see
Good.
everybody.
Yeah, you too. So Greg, can you tell us a little bit about Verdezymes from Soul?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've loved listening to what we've heard so far. And, speaking of some of those bigger things like the bloating and the reflux, one thing that Verdezymes has is it's got a balance of enzymes for all the foods, all the food groups, but it actually has a special enzyme called glucoamylase. And that's one that they've done extra studies. There are some studies in particular about bigger issues of bloating, et cetera. So that's not always in every blend, every enzyme blend. You sort of look at the main like amylase, lipase, and there are different proteases to cover all the, your carbs, your fats, et cetera, and proteins. And that's great because as we get older, we just produce less. And older is quotes, because it's different for everybody. And actually, to a couple of your points tonight, kids, we're seeing more and more kids with digestive issues. So I'm not so sure. It's just like a get a little bit older thing and the enzymes start going down in production. I know that's true, but a lot of other factors are interfering. And so I love the stories that I've heard tonight on just getting kids used to those and knowing this is something they have. This can make a difference for you because like Ashley said, it will do it for you. And actually some people worry, I think they think, oh, if I take enzymes, will my body quit producing them? That is not the case. And I hope to explain why tonight. Mm-hmm. A good enzyme formula is more than just the enzymes. How much you put of them and what you combine with them is everything. And with Soul, we don't ever just include the basics in a formula. We cannot help ourselves. Too many
This
years.
is one thing we love about Soul Naturals.
Yeah, we just can't help ourselves. And so Verdezymes is a little different. First, its name. Verdezymes, it's all plant enzymes. So very commonly, enzymes will be a blend. Some might be sourced from plants and some from animal sources. What we find is that our body does more, it leverages more readily plant sources of nutrition. So it's not that animal sources can't be useful, but our body leverages it. It's easier to convert and move into what it needs, which is energy to do everything. So that's one point. They're all plant sourced in the entire formula. The second point about Verdezymes is that we've included 4 herbs. So you've got all these enzymes, but you also have 4 herbs. 2 of them are to calm the mind. And Ashley talked about like going from sort of anxious and bouncing around at night to relaxed and sleeping. Well, 2 of those herbs, actually all 4 of those herbs do that, because 2 are to calm the mind and anxiousness. And that's the wood betony and the passion flower. And the other 2 are to calm the gut. And that's the opposite of how it sounds, because calming the gut stimulates digestion. Calming the gut is what activates the gut. Calming the gut is what stimulates the other nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your healing nervous system. So Verdezymes has this dual purpose, because you've got these roots. I mean, back to what Tiffany taught us about roots of trees and what we don't see beneath the ground. You've got these roots to support the body's activation of those root processes in the 4 herbs. Then you have this great suite of enzymes, all from plants. And then we did a couple of other different things. We included 2 herbs that are acid resistant in your stomach. So this is another point of how Verdezymes is unique. We call it fiber tract. It's just konjac and xanthan in a very small amount. I just want to emphasize it's a very small amount. Sometimes people are like, oh, wow, that can be a lot of fiber, and this is not fiber significant. It's only time release significant. So it's enough to grab the enzymes and foods and kind of like encapsulate them like a time release, so that instead of doing their thing in 25 minutes, it's 45 minutes, which what that does is it gets deeper into the digestive process and makes changes greater than just in the stomach. That's the best way I know how to say it. So that's another point that's unique to this. Why is that important? Well, because all the really fine tuning that makes all the difference in what we absorb in our cells happens beyond the stomach, in the small intestine, that first section of it. And so that's why Verdezymes has that little group. And then there's one other uniqueness that you just won't find in enzymes formulas. We loaded up the variety on the protein enzymes. Instead of having 1, which is typical, or maybe 2, if you see a really good one, we actually have 4. Why do we have 4? Because it turns out that protein enzymes, they function best in a certain acid level, pH level. So a lot of people think, oh, well, your body maintains this constant pH and it's kind of just a crock. No, depends on what you eat, what your stress is, what your emotion. Certain parts of the body fluctuate very little. Other parts, we put them through the ringer. And I think the digestive tract there's clear evidence of that. Not just because of what we eat or what we drink, like say pollutants, toxins, or what's in the air, what we breathe gets into our system, but also stress itself. That's different for everybody. And the way we internalize it, it's unique to us. And so the proteins, it turns out, are a super important part that are overlooked. And why do I say they're overlooked? Well, number one, I think back to a couple of trainings years ago from Dr. Allison. She reminded us that before Advil and all these wonderful, take your headache away, take the pain away, what doctors would do who were educated, they'd give you these protein enzymes on an empty stomach multiple times a day for pain, inflammations, injuries. Because what they do is they get in there, and when they're not all used up digesting your food, in other words, you're taking it on an empty stomach, right? Before you go to bed, in between meals, that kind of situation. They actually go to work on cholesterol in the blood, sugar levels in the blood, tissue like repairing muscle when you're like working out. The Germans did studies with bodybuilders with it. Abnormal cells. So anything that you can talk about there. That's what these proteases are like deeply involved in when they're taken separately. So we did 4 of them because they all work in a different pH level. So we wanted to cover the broadest range possible in a formula so that it works for you and me and the other person and the next person and the next that we share it with, no matter what we got going on. And then once we finished that, we actually, I still remember this, when this was right before we founded the company, we went back to our chemist and we said, okay. And he was all happy with his rendering of the formula. And then we said, okay, now double it. He's like, what? Not the whole thing, just the proteins. Now double them. Really? You want to double them? Yes, we want to double them.
That's great, because we can just wreak so much havoc on our own systems by the things that we eat. So that's a good method of helping people and their bodies to do what they need to do.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
that's the last piece that's different, is just that the 4 proteases and then they're doubled. So there's this, it's this secret weapon. It's a healer, and you can use it with a lot of pain, a lot of inflammation, with headaches, believe it or not, fats in the blood, cholesterol, sugar. A lot of the main root issues behind those little warning lights in the car, enzymes are a real key to turning those around. So yeah, Verdezymes is pretty darn versatile.
Yeah, especially with that, that time release and going deeper into the GI tract. It's your immune system starts in the gut, right? But your gut isn't just your stomach. So having those work deeper into the system is really amazing. And it's, I mean, I know it's helped not only the women on here who have shared so far with their own personal stories, but I know many of my members has helped as well. So that's really great. While we have you here, Greg, I just wanted to ask you a little bit. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Soul Quick bonus?
Yes. Let me gather my thoughts here.
Switching gears, I did want to ask you about this real quick. I know that.
Yeah, why did we do that? It's just, Soul Quick is just our way of saying that we actually pay weekly, and not only weekly, but it's a particular type of commission for that first time that you reach out to someone who hasn't had this in their life, and it's the first time that they're using. We know that Soul is here to mentor and help people, and to bring people in and help them feel the way we feel when we're together. That's what the Soul Quick's for. It's actually just paid, that particular bonus is just paid on the first purchase that person makes, to the mentor of that person, who's going to be, calling up after a day and going, hey, did you feel bloated this time? When Thanksgiving dinner came and you tried just 2 Verdezymes with your Thanksgiving dinner, did you feel bloated this time? No, I felt way better. Okay. All that work that doesn't happen in stores or online is the whole reason we chose to do it this way, because we believe it makes all the difference. So Soul Quicks, it happens every Friday. If you're helping somebody join Soul this week, it's going to be next week. It's a higher level. It's when the person becomes a member, it's like 30% commission. And when they're a specialist, it's 45. So it's a very significant commission. I hope that it sends the message how seriously we take mentoring. That's where we put a significant part of commission, because it's just the difference maker in life for people, I really believe.
Mm-hmm. And I know, as a specialist myself, how much I really appreciate the support from headquarters in creating systems like this to help us to succeed and to feel not only good about helping people, but to have it, a feel good in return to us as well. It's a really neat tool that Soul does to support specialists and everything. So thanks, Greg. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing about Verdezymes. I know I will be taking some before my Thanksgiving dinner and after my Thanksgiving dinner and all of the days following when I'm eating leftovers.
Sure.
Thanks, Greg.
Molly.
So while we're talking about making money with Soul and some of the great tools and rewards that you can get from Soul, we have Ashley Geigel on here. Hi, Ashley. How are you?
Hey, good. How is everyone tonight?
Great. So share with us.
Yeah, so I think basically everybody will agree that the best part of Soul is the trips and getting together. Just the friendships that feel like family. It always just feels like a great big family reunion. And with that being said, like I've actually been to Salt Lake City, I think like 2 to 4 times already. And Orlando, and then Destin. We actually for one of our Soul to Soul trips, we went to Destin, and that was for Seth's 40th birthday. And just like family would do, Soul knocked it out of the park and celebrated him in a great way. So that just proves that family tightness or togetherness is really there. And then also, like, we live in a very small town in South Dakota, like 500 people. We basically have to travel to do any extracurriculars besides the basic, basketball, softball, baseball, sorry. And so my son last year decided he wanted to do guitar lessons. So on top of them already being a little bit pricier, we have to drive 45 minutes one way to go to guitar lessons. And then my 6-year-old decided this year he wants to try wrestling, which again is a 30-minute drive. And thankfully we do have a gymnastics gym locally that my daughter participates in. But as we all know, even without the travel, there's an expense that comes with those. And Soul has made that just a lot easier for our family, and it helps pay for our daily uses, pay for the daily Soul uses in our family as well. So helping us cover our cost of our products, and then plus all those extracurriculars that the kids love to do. And then on the back side of things, coming out of college, and both me and my husband being very young, we had a little bit of credit card debt, because what do you do in college? You get a credit card. So we're at the point now where we're trying to get rid of that, small amount of debt, and that Soul has been so beneficial and helpful for us to do that as well. Really balancing, here's where our products go, here's how we're going to pay for the extracurriculars, and this is going to go for our debt. So that's just made a huge impact in our life as well. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's great. You get the Soul Quick bonuses right away, and those are easy to do when you're just sharing, right? Like, it's not like you're being real selly or what,
right.
You're not doing that. You're just sharing these products that have helped you to feel good, and then they help others, and
yeah,
the kids can do all of the things.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is, like, my 10-year-old is using the Verdezymes as well for his inflammation, is that, and sharing my love for the Soul overall, and how it helps me and our family, and providing so many more benefits than our body can, do on its own to help us find the balance and the clear mind. And but it just also provides financially for us. So it's just been a blessing that I didn't know I had to have in my life. And there's Soul fills such a void, or such a need in my life, I guess I should say, that we're just so grateful for it overall in our house. So
yeah, I agree. It's not even just about the money, it's the family, it's the, you feel better physically, mentally, and then you have these wonderful people who help support you along the journey, and these herbs that give you a great system to give you the best fighting chance for living a healthy, happy, successful life.
Yeah.
And then, we get to do things. I know that, you've mentioned some of the trips that you've taken. I know next year we have our Soul to Soul, and that is in Costa Rica. So that's a really exciting opportunity for specialists to be able to have that incentive trip just by sharing these products that are so beneficial. You can't get all of the nutrition that you need from food alone, even on the best diet. So having tools like that from Soul is really going to be a great way to support people. So if you are here and haven't joined Soul yet, please talk to the mentor who invited you. The mentors really do make this company, and they are so supportive and so wonderful. It's easy to become a member, and the benefits far outweigh anything. And we always love hearing. We love hearing stories. If you have stories of testimonies that you have from different Soul products that you've taken, ways that Soul Naturals has helped you, we love to hear your stories. So please share in the Stories of Hope group, or share with any of your mentors. We love sharing our stories. I know that, anytime anyone has a new success story, we message each other and say, "You'll never believe what happened. This is so great. This makes me feel so good. This person who was struggling is now, able to come off their medications, or, has had something really drastic and important happen in their lives." And so that is something that we thrive on, and that's what helps us to continue on this journey. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Greg, Angela, Ashley, Tiffany, everyone who is here and sharing your stories and helping to inform us and teach us so that we can make better decisions for our health. We really appreciate everything. So have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next week.